If fans didn't like Liam Hemsworth taking over as Geralt in The Witcher after Henry Cavill's exit, another change might fuel the fire even more. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. Please like, share and subscribe for more. While author Andrzej Sapkowski had written the original literary series a long time ago, the CD Projekt Red iteration of the story in the video games, just like the Netflix adaptation, didn't stick strictly to the narrative. In fact, they had their own set of deviations and minor changes to the plot and continuity, and they nailed it by adhering to the source and not changing it too much. In a past interview with Marcin Blacha, CDPR's story director for The Witcher 3: Wild Hunt, via Culture.pl, he talked about how he co-wrote the narrative for the game through the source that Sapkowski left. At the same time, the tweaks and new character introductions were kept to a minimum and created to support the original story rather than change it too much. He said, "So, a lot of work has already been done by the author himself, rather than by us. He's created the world, the characters which we can draw upon. Of course we add new characters to the original ones, as at some point the source becomes exhausted. You can't process data sourced from books over and over again. Therefore, rather than hard pivots to the original characters, especially the core cast of the books, they made certain logical tweaks and alterations that made sense from the perspective of the game. And while few may not have been that well received, CDPR did create something that fans would remember for a long time despite the changes." With so many deviations from the original story in the Witcher TV series, showrunner Lauren Hissrich has yet again announced a major change. In an interview with Dexerto, she talked about how Liam Hemsworth's version of Geralt will not be as stoic as he was in the source material, saying, "Geralt is a little funnier this season. He's a little more dry. He's also a lot more emotional. He's going through a lot of different things than we've seen in the past." This is a significant shift from what fans experienced with Henry Cavill's version of Geralt up until Season 3, which is obviously not sitting well with fans of the Netflix show. However, while the series is being criticized for such deviations from the books, the video game series, on the other hand, has been praised by the fandom for the same thing. Therefore, even when emotional distress or sentimental imbalance hits him, he can go on fighting to protect the innocent. But Hissrich's creative decision with Hemsworth's version, just like her previous woke, creative liberties, is going against the entire premise and theme of the source, which is set in an extremely dark and bleak setting. And with fans already stepping away from the series after a new face of Geralt emerges, along with criticizing the smallest of details like Hemsworth's dialogue delivery, this decision may not fare well for the series. Here are more details about Netflix's The Witcher. As fans of the franchise have experienced through the books and the video games, the striking aspect of Geralt's nature is his stone-faced stoicism, which is partially the result of his genetic mutation into a Witcher. But more importantly, since he is a monster hunter, he has to keep his emotions and sentiments deep inside to do his job and not get killed. The Witcher Season 4 faces the same issues that destroyed Game of Thrones, but can Netflix avoid repeating HBO's mistakes? Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. Please like, share and subscribe for more. Here's where things get uncomfortable. Both Game of Thrones and The Witcher made eerily similar mistakes that transformed cultural phenomena into cautionary tales. George R.R. Martin's masterpiece collapsed spectacularly when David Benioff and D.B. Weiss ran out of source material, rushing through character arcs and abandoning plot threads that fans had invested years following. Daenerys Targaryen's heel turn from liberator to genocidal maniac happened in basically 2 episodes, completely betraying 7 seasons of character development. The Night King, built up as the ultimate threat for 8 seasons, got taken out by Arya Stark in what felt like a random Tuesday. Even Martin himself pushed for. Let's be real, Netflix's The Witcher is walking into Season 4 with more baggage than Geralt's trusty horse roach. With Liam Hemsworth stepping into Henry Cavill's monster hunting boots and the show dropping today, October 30th, 2025, we're all asking the same question. Can this fantasy series avoid the spectacular train wreck that was Game of Thrones' finale? The parallels are honestly terrifying. Both shows are big-budget fantasy adaptations that started strong, both have faced major casting changes and creative controversies, and both have passionate fanbases ready to riot if things go sideways. But the thing is that The Witcher has one massive advantage that Game of Thrones didn't. Andrzej Sapkowski actually finished writing his books. All of them. So why does it feel like we're heading toward another fantasy disaster? Let's break it down. Showrunner Lauren Schmidt Hissrich admitted to intentionally avoiding hiring writers too close to the source material. but was overruled by showrunners eager to move on to other projects, via the Wall Street Journal. Now look at The Witcher's trajectory. Henry Cavill's departure wasn't just about scheduling conflicts. Multiple sources, including former writer Beau DeMayo, revealed on his Instagram stories that some writers disliked the source material, via IGN. Look, we get it, adaptation means change. But The Witcher's biggest wins have come when it trusts Sapkowski's material. Season 3, despite its flaws, was praised by critics precisely because it followed the Vaned Ku storyline from the books more closely. When the show invented completely new villains like Voleth Meir or had Yennefer lose her powers and betray Ciri, neither of which happens in the books, fans revolted. Seasons 4 and 5 are adapting the final 3 novels, Baptism of Fire, The Tower of the Swallow, and Lady of the Lake. These contain some of the saga's best material: Geralt's Hansa, his found family crew, Ciri's harrowing journey with the rats, and the epic conclusion we've all been waiting for. Hisrich has confirmed the result. Season 3 saw a devastating 36% viewership drop from Season 2, with invented storylines like the Voleth Meir arc falling flat and beloved characters like Eskel getting killed off for shock value. But here's The Witcher's secret weapon. Sapkowski's complete 8-book saga sits there, ready to adapt. Game of Thrones crashed because it ran out of roadmap. The Witcher is choosing to ignore its GPS while having a perfectly clear route to the destination. Showrunner Lauren Schmidt-Hisrich admitted to intentionally avoiding hiring writers too close to the source material. Okay, let's address the mammoth in the room. Replacing Henry Cavill was always going to be rough. Cavill wasn't just playing Geralt, he was Geralt, constantly pushing for book accuracy and sending extensive notes about dialogue. His parting comment, via Happy Sad Confused podcast, was telling. If you realize you're doing the wrong thing, that's when you stop doing the wrong thing. But early Season 4 reviews suggest Hemsworth might actually pull this off. Variety called his transition mostly seamless, while his co-stars are singing his praises. Joey Beatty, Jaskier, said Hemsworth showed up fully formed, and Lawrence Fishburne called him magnificent, via Games Radar. The key seems to be that Hemsworth studied Cavill's performance but found his own voice rather than doing a pale imitation. Hisrich notes in an interview with Games Radar that Hemsworth brings more emotional vulnerability to the role, which could actually serve the character's evolution in the later books. If he leans into Book Geralt's philosopher-warrior duality while bringing fresh energy, this recasting might strengthen the show rather than sink it. The trick is letting him interpret the character without fundamentally changing who Geralt is at his core. Will not go past the books. Which is smart after watching Game of Thrones implode without source material. Now she just needs to actually follow through. Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings succeeded because he treated Tolkien's work as a historical epi.